I saw so many grown men crying last night. I was told grown men were crying last night. My mentions or my texts was full of men telling me that they were crying, full of men telling me they never thought this day would come. Grown men, men with families, men with children, some with grandchildren, telling me they never thought this day would come. And it led me to think, maybe the basketball gods did the right thing. I questioned the basketball gods, and that's on me. That is my mistake. I should never question the Almighty. The basketball gods did something last night that I didn't see the vision. I didn't do the science. I didn't see the math. The math was not mathing until all those text messages came into my phone last night. There is a war going on. No, not that war. There's a war going on, though. There's another war going on. Some of you might not be aware of it. There are spaces where men feel like they cannot be open. Men feel like they cannot be vulnerable. Where men feel like they cannot be transparent. But leave it up to the almighty basketball gods to give them a space. Leave it up to the almighty basketball gods to give New York men, New York basketball fans, New York Knicks fans a safe space. There are a lot of troubling times out here. There are a lot of problematic things going on that as a man and as a black man, you could feel you have no control. But leave it to the almighty basketball gods to give New York men, New York basketball fans, New York Knicks fans, a space to be jubilant, a space to release and release happily, a place to be vulnerable. And that's what the almighty basketball gods did last night as they finally struck down the 53-year black cloud that was the New York Knicks. No longer can I say, yeah, but you never won a championship. You don't know what that feels like. I can't say the Ewing finger roll anymore. I can't say Starks in Game 7 against Houston. I can't say any of it. Because Knicks fans get to say, yeah, but Jalen Brunson, though. 2025, 2026, though. Taking down Big Vic, Tall Vic, Lil Vic, Victor Wembanyama, though. And all I have to do is sit back and smile and say, you know what, you're right. And even though younger me might feel differently, mature me, grown me, sees the vision. Because grown men were able to release 53 years or just a lifetime of frustration, a lifetime of turmoil, a lifetime of animus. They were able to release it. And who am I to question the authority of the basketball gods? I am all grateful for the almighty basketball gods because they understood that these men, these New York Knicks fans, these black men, they needed to release. With what has been happening with Carmelo Anthony, no, not that Melo, but the Carmelo Anthony with the K. There's a lot of frustration pent up. There's a lot of anger pent up. The basketball gods gave New York Knicks fans, black New York Knicks fans, black male New York Knicks fans, a reason to exalt. And it came at the behest of a 7'5" Frenchman who was soft last night. It came at the behest of a Sacramento King who, despite wearing a different uniform, was playing exactly like you would expect a Sacramento King to play in the NBA Finals. It came at the behest of a coach who looked overmatched from day one against Mike Brown. It came at the behest of an organization that had all the luminaries in the building and yet still couldn't figure out a way to withstand a double-digit lead and hold on to a double-digit lead and capitalize and put away a team with a double-digit lead. It was all happening last night for Knicks tape, and it was magical. At the second quarter, I knew it was over. When another double-digit lead was built up in the first quarter, only to see it get brought down in the second quarter with the same blueprint. Wemby goes out, Luke Cornett comes in. The bench guys, the few remnants of starters, have no idea how to play the game of basketball with a lead. And slowly but surely, Knicks tape kept chipping away. Slowly but surely, Brunson got going. It was only a matter of time. No lead was big enough for the Spurs last night. They were up 16, it didn't matter. Because each time they got up double digits, they did something dumb. They did something stupid. They did something that showed low basketball IQ that just lets you know, yep, they're going to find a way to trick this off. They are handing a Larry O.B. to the Knicks. Or maybe the almighty basketball gods were saying, this is the team that needed to be in the Knicks' way for them to be able to get a Larry O.B. This is the type of team that the Knicks needed to beat or could beat to be able to break this 53-year, you want to call it a curse, whatever. I don't think OKC does the same dumb things that the Spurs did over this series. I don't think SGA would have allowed his team to keep tricking off double-digit leads. I think Jalen Williams would have been healthy enough to be able to be a solid number 2 option to allow Chet Holmgren to fall back to his natural number 3 position. I think there would have been a lot of things that would have went differently, but the almighty basketball guys decided, nope, this 53-year shit needs to stop. It needs to end. New Yorkers, black New Yorkers, black male New Yorkers need a way to release and to vent, so be it. I'm going to put the Spurs in their way, in the youth, in the inexperience, in the mental lapses, in the fact that their max player has all the remnants of being a Sacramento King. We're going to give the Knicks the perfect scenario to go get a Larry O.B. And that's exactly what happened. All praise be to the almighty basketball gods. I am grateful. I have seen the light. I no longer have to console Knicks fans. I no longer have to try to make them feel better about themselves. Well, you know, you guys were the 2 seed a couple of years ago. Didn't you guys win like 60 games not that long ago? Like, don't worry, it'll turn around. Don't worry about it. There's a plan in place. There's a vision. It'll happen eventually, right? I don't have to do that spiel no more. I am relieved today. I no longer have to carry the juxtaposition of, well, I can't get at the Knicks fans because, you know, growing up, getting at the Knicks when I was a Bulls fan, it was fun. It was a rivalry, right? There were some people who actually believed the Knicks were better than the Jordan Bulls. They were silly, they're dumb, but still, it remained. It was a fun rivalry until you realize the Knicks were never going to beat the Bulls. But still, that animus was there, that energy was there. But then after a while, it just became to be just sad. I couldn't keep dissing my friends and family who were Knicks fans because, I mean, after 30 years of just watching them always find a way to trick it off or be inept or be losers or be a poverty franchise, what more can I do? You just say, well, man, you're a Knicks fan. And then that would just be the end of it. That was the mic drop, the ultimate mic drop to shutting up a Knicks fan as someone that witnessed buku chips growing up was, yo, dogs, you're a Knicks fan. Why are you talking to me about ball? Why are you talking to me about what winning basketball looks like? How do you know what that looks like? You know Charles Smith blowing layups. You know Patrick Ewing missing a finger roll. You know John Starks tricking off Game 7. That's what you know. I know you got the 4-point play and you could do all that stuff. Hey, that's cool. Allen Houston, this shot bounced around 10 times. And then, yeah, that's cool. But you don't know what a champion looks like. So it got to be old. It got tired. It was hard being a Knicks hater. It really was, because it was laughable. Like, the Knicks weren't even relevant. The relevancy, or the lack thereof, made it so that the jokes don't hit as hard. The hate doesn't hit as strong. I'm now relieved. I don't even have to pretend anymore. I don't have to fake it for Knicks fans anymore. Do you know the relief that's been given to me by the almighty basketball gods? I see the vision now. I thank them. I'll go quickly to the chat. Greg, I was crying the happiest of tears. And I believe him. Now, there's going to be a lot of hyperbole of, 20 years from now, every Knicks fan is going to be telling you where they were, what they were doing, and all of them were crying. I don't think all of them were crying, but I know genuinely a good majority were crying last night. And I'm not surprised that Greg is one of them. He's a real Knicks fan. He's been through the ups and downs. I had grown men telling me they were crying. Grown men. And I'm happy for them, because that is emotion. We normally cry in times of despair, grief, loss. The few times you get to cry when something happy, when something good happens, is minimal, which is sad, which I think speaks to our society. The birth of a child, the birth of a relationship, a wedding, watching your child grow, watching a loved one prosper, things of that nature. I've often said, and I've coined the phrase, fandom is a mental illness, and I still stand by it. Because fandom is a mental illness. Because can you imagine, for 53, the Knicks fan who is 53 years old had to wait his or her entire life to feel euphoria. Can you imagine the toll that takes on a psyche? 53 years of losing. 53 years of being a poverty franchise. Can you imagine the toll that takes on someone and the relief you saw throughout your timeline, as I know I did mine, with just that release, that pain being let go? The world, and yes, I mean the world, because I can tell you, as traveling, coming from the Caribbean over the last week, there are Knicks fans everywhere. The world is a better place today because a lot of men, a lot of black men, were able to release emotions, release frustration, and be happy and be jubilant. The world is in a better place. And I didn't see the vision. It was blurry, like Wemby said after game 2. My vision was blurry, but I now can see. Mavs in the house. We should have traded Luka earlier and built around Brunson. I mean, no. But Brunson could only do this in New York. Brunson would have not done this anywhere else, and I genuinely believe that. I don't think the situation would have. There's no better scenario for this to happen with Brunson than New York. I don't think you would have found any other franchise that would have been willing to just hand over everything to Jalen Brunson. But because of his father's ties and because of let's be real, and I think even Greg can attest to this, because of the utter despair of where the Knicks were. 53 years you've never seen a chip. When Brunson got here, it was about 50 years you hadn't seen a chip. You definitely would have handed over the keys to even a Jalen Brunson if you hadn't even sniffed a championship in 50 years. I don't think no other franchise would have been willing to do that. I don't think no other franchise was in the position that the Knicks were in, where they always get quasi close and always look like it's going to be a thing. And then the hype train builds up, whether it's the Knicks fans, whether it's the Knicks media, or whether it's the national media that knows when New York is engaged, that's good for the betterment of the league as a whole. The hype train would always build, but then sputter, but then stall. I don't think no other franchise would have been willing to hand over the keys to Jalen Brunson. It could have only happened in New York because the Knicks were that desperate. They were that desperate that they were willing to hand the keys over to an undersized guard who now everyone's going to tell you is a, underdog story, even though he's a Nepo baby. They did it with Wardell. They're doing it with Jalen Brunson. As long as you're under 6'4", light-skinned, and a Nepo baby, all of a sudden you're an underdog. It's automatic. I think what we witnessed last night is special for obviously a lot of reasons, right? What we saw last night is special for a lot of reasons. What the Knicks have vanquished, seeing Patrick Ewing, seeing Charles Oakley, can we give some respect to the fact that Charles Oakley was able to be in the building? And James Dolan, who is so old and frail and got the bad fake teeth, and he could barely hoist up the Larry O.B. And he apologized to Knicks tape. He apologized to Knicks fans for the last 20 years of, ineptitude. But the fact that Oak is still banned from the Garden. If ever there was a scenario, not only should Dolan have apologized to Knicks fans, and that was fine that he did, he should have apologized to Oakley. That was the olive branch moment where James Dolan could have been the bigger person and said, you know what, I did the wrong thing. Oak, you're not banned. Come on up here and help hoist up this Larry O.B. Because like I said in the last stream, the last pod, Oakley was the mascot for those 90 Knicks. Greg is in this chat. Greg was crying last night because he watched Oakley be the heart and soul of the Knicks growing up. All my friends and family who were telling me they were crying last night, all the people that I know that I saw crying on social media last night, they all were in love with Charles Oakley. And the fact that Oakley had to be a spectator in a visitor arena to see the team that he bled for, to see them finally get over the hump and win a championship when he couldn't have done it if this went to Game 6, when he wasn't there when it was Game 4 or 3. Charles Oakley, all the signs were there. All the signs were there. He looked good in the suit. Let me see. I have it up here. Oak was in the building. Oak was in the building. That's major. Oakley was in the building. Do you know how special that is? You know how many men he pimp slapped? You know how many opponents he shook down for bread? Do you know how many dudes he had to lay out for trying to go at Patrick Ewing? Do you know what this man had to do as the Knick enforcer in the 90s? Do you know the things he had to endure as the bully of the Knicks in the 90s? Charles Oakley deserves a ring. Charles Oakley deserves a ring. Patrick Ewing deserves a ring. Now, I had a Knick fan text me last night. It told me that Tom Thibodeau, the meniscus tearing taskmaster, deserves a ring. And I'm telling you, as Chief Knick hater number one, as someone that is trying to turn over a new leaf and trying to understand the vision of the almighty basketball gods, I wanted to revert back to the old me. I wanted to revert back to the old me when I had a Knick fan tell me last night that the meniscus tearing taskmaster Tom Thibodeau deserved a ring. I wanted to backslide. I wanted to. It was right there. I could have done it. But I was the bigger person. And I said, you know what? He's caught up. He's drunk with euphoria. I'm not even going to do it tonight. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to rain on that man's parade. But I will say this: if anyone even tries to bring up the meniscus tearing Taskmaster as a bridge to this championship, I cannot promise I won't backslide. I am telling y'all this right now. You don't get to the NBA Finals with the meniscus tearing Taskmaster Tom Thibodeau as your coach. You don't get this far with him as your coach. One of your players, whether it was Mikal Bridges, whether it was Josh Hart, whether it was OG, or maybe even Brunson or Cat, one of them would have been hobbled by this point. Why do I know that? Because it has happened all the seasons prior when the Knicks were in the playoffs with the meniscus tearing Taskmaster Tom Thibodeau. So don't anyone bring up Tibbs. Don't want to hear it. Leon Rose better not do it. The players might do it because they might feel indebted, but it's nonsense. Don't you believe it? Because those same players went into that front office and told Leon Rose and told James Dolan that they don't want Tibbs here anymore. Now it's all, peaches and cream that got rose-colored glasses. No, they didn't want that man there anymore. Greg, no. There's no pause. There's no pause. First is Pride Month. Ain't no pause during Pride Month. Second of all, no, this is real. You released last night. Whether you want to admit it or not, you released. Now, it may not have been where you wanted it to, but you released. You should be happy about that. A happy release is a good release in my book, regardless of how it happens. Yeah, Oakley's a heart and soul, man. Oakley's a heart and soul. I'm glad he was there. I'm glad Patrick was there. Allen Houston's, he's kind of wormed his way into being a Knick luminary. All those other guys, but the main ones I wanted to see was Oak, Ewing. I didn't see Starks, but I'm sure he was there. Pour it out one time for the late, great Anthony Mason, Springfield Gardens' own Anthony Mason. As Fat Joe tries to run around and, tries to bump Spike Lee as the next vocal Knick fan, super fan or whatever, let's pour one out for Anthony Mason one time. Anthony Mason should have been in that building last night. When you think of the Knicks who poured their soul out, Derek Harper should have been in the building last night. As soon as the game was over, I saw Charlie Ward on CNN. I don't know how that happened, but Charlie Ward's out doing the media runs. So many Knicks from that era, from that long gone era, deserve to be in the Mecca. It's a great time for Knick fans. And I can tell you this straight up, as much as there's going to be a lot of New York media glazing the Knicks, there's going to be a lot of New York media pretending to know basketball. There's going to be a lot of popular pundits that are going to be pontificating from the skies, trying to show their basketball knowledge. Don't fall for it. If they weren't here during the Larry Brown era, if they weren't getting good quality Knicks takes off in the Larry Brown era, don't come now. If you weren't getting it off during the Mike Woodson era, I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear about your takes now. It's easy to talk about the Knicks when they're on top. It is easy to talk about the Knicks when they're on top. I don't want to hear from y'all now. Y'all didn't care about basketball. I could tell y'all. WFAN, the flagship sports station, sports talk radio station, they don't care about basketball. They never have cared about basketball. They're going to fake it. They don't care about basketball. I have heard them literally say it off air. They don't care about basketball. But yet fans are going to run to them to get their opinions, to get their takes. When the whole station is full of a bunch of football, baseball, and hockey fans. Don't let these New York people try to pretend to you like they know ball. They don't know ball. Because they're going to tell you how, it's already started. Kendrick Perkins, he's not WFAN, but Kendrick Perkins always saying Jalen Brunson's the greatest Knick ever. This is the nonsense we have to endure now. And this is why if Knicks fans cling on to certain narratives, I can't promise you I can't spin the block. I can't do that U-turn and turn back into the chief Knick hater number one. Because if someone is telling you Jalen Brunson is the greatest Knick of all time when Walt Clyde Frazier is still breathing and walking. I know we've lost a lot of Knicks from that 73 team. But Clyde Frazier is still walking amongst us and styling and profiling to this day. Even though Patrick Ewing never won a championship, he is still a better Knick than Jalen Brunson. Taken as a number 1 overall pick, some would say hand-picked as a number 1 overall pick to the Knicks, and he lived up to the expectation. He couldn't quite get over the hump because, unlike Jalen Brunson, Patrick Ewing didn't have a whole bunch of lottery players running with him. John Starks was bagging groceries, and all of a sudden he was Patrick Ewing's number 2 option. Do you understand how crazy that is that the Knicks were even able to get through the Eastern Conference during this toughest time with John Starks, who was bagging groceries in Oklahoma? That is who the Knicks decided to surround Patrick Ewing with. While Jalen Brunson's got all his lottery pick buddies from Villanova, OG Anunoby, Karl Anthony Towns, Patrick Ewing was out here with a grocery bagger. And he still pushed Hakeem Olajuwon to 7 games in the NBA Finals. Greg saying Starks was there last night. Okay, that makes sense. Nick Luminary, the grocery bagger. John Starks was in the building. There's not much to talk about this game, right? As much as we want to just dissect everything and overanalyze and do the analysis paralysis thing, and we could certainly do that. All the games follow the same blueprint. I had the graphic up here, and I'll put it back up on the screen. This was the MO for every single game. Spurs collapsing. Led game 1 by 14 points. Led game 2 by 12 points. Led game 3 by 12 points. Led game 4 by 29 points. And last night, led game 5 by 16 points. Yet somehow, some way, the Spurs found a way to lose 4 out of those 5 games. That's the series right there. That's the blueprint. The history will show Knicks 4. Knicks won in 5 games. That's what the history, 20 years from now, just going to say, yeah, the Knicks beat the Spurs in 5 games. And that's going to sound dominating. Like, oh my God, they just ran right through the Spurs. And that's where the absence of context matters. Because the context is, look at these leads. If I'm pointing here, no, I'm pointing there. Look at these leads. Double-digit leads in every single game, and it didn't matter. Double-digit leads in every single game, and not at one point did any of us feel comfortable. Even the 29-point game, when they were up 30 on the road in a dead silent Mecca. The first 7-0 run that the Knicks made, we was like, oh, it's a wrap. Here they come. They're going to find a way to trick this off. And they damn sure kept finding ways, from Wemby in game 2, having brain fart after brain fart after brain fart, to Mitch Johnson leaving Dylan Harper on the bench, to De'Aaron Fox and all the things he did in game 4. And to even last night, De'Aaron Fox just going ISO ball. I talked about it throughout this series. He thinks he can take OG Anunoby one-on-one anytime he wants. He thinks that's a good matchup. And while it worked that one time in game 3 at the end, he thought he could just do that at any point in time. Too many times last night, De'Aaron Fox, when his team needed him, thought the best solution was, I'm going to go one-on-one against the Knicks' best defender and see what happens. Whether it was 1-4-5 or whether it was just, I'm just going to come down in no flow of the offense and I'm just going to aimlessly chuck this 3 up. I'm going to stop this Knicks run by just chucking this 3 up. It's horrible basketball IQ. And we could talk about, Mike Brown used to coach Sacramento, so he knows De'Aaron Fox very well. So maybe Mike Brown was able to sprinkle some stuff into his players' ears to give them tea or intel. I don't even think it's that serious. I don't even think it's that deep. I don't think Mike Brown did anything different in terms of putting his team on to how De'Aaron Fox gets down. If you watch De'Aaron Fox in Sacramento, and I know a lot of Knicks fans don't because all you do is watch Knicks games. If you watch De'Aaron Fox in Sacramento, this is who he was. This is who he was. Except for in Sacramento, who else was going to get the ball? So this is who De'Aaron Fox has always been. This is who he is. If we want to get into, let's get into some of these stats. Let's get into some of these stats, right? This is just off last night. Bridges didn't really give you much. Like the guys, I don't know if Stefan's in here, but I know he'll be listening to the pod if he's not in here. We've been talking about what this vintage Jalen Brunson looked like. Obviously, last night was not vintage Jalen Brunson. This was legendary Jalen Brunson last night. 45 points is not vintage. 14 of 27. Again, efficient. The last 2 games. Maybe even can sneak in the last 3, but for sure the last 2 games, Jalen Brunson gave you all the things. And my bad, I still got that collapse graphic up. Hang on. Jalen Brunson gave you all the things that you wanted to see from him. There was a lot of clamor, myself included, in terms of, hey, man, maybe OG's the MVP if the Knicks pull this off. While OG was still OG last night, had a good game, was not great shooting the ball at all, so he didn't have the capper to put the bow on it to make it a competitive thing. If Jalen Brunson goes crazy like this, putting up a 45-piece in the closeout game, 4-7 from 3, 13-15 from the line, yeah, he's going to get that MVP. Regardless of how inefficient he looked early in the series, he did enough over the last 2 games to get that MVP trophy. So if you go down to what the Spurs did or didn't do, De'Aaron Fox, 3 of 15, 1 of 8 from 3, 5 assists, only 1 turnover. This man's going to get $60 million soon. $60 million soon in a closeout game, in an elimination game. 3 of 15, 1 of 8 from 3, not 1 rebound. Do we even want to look at his shot chart? I'm afraid to look at his shot chart. I am absolutely terrified to look at the De'Aaron Fox shot chart. But let's do it. De'Aaron Fox shot chart. Look at all these threes, bro. Y'all see these threes? All these threes, bro. Who told him? Who told him? All these red X's you're seeing on your screen are misses. Look at all these shots. He tried to get into the elbow, left elbow. He tried to beat a reverse Brunson, Brick City. This is a pathetic shot chart in a closeout game. Meanwhile, if I go to Jalen Brunson, look where these shots are. Yeah, he took some threes, but look where he's getting. He's in the paint. He's in the paint more than the bigs. He was in the paint more than Wemby. And that was a reoccurring thing over the entirety of the series. Now, earlier in the series, the shots just weren't falling. He was still getting to these spots. It just wasn't falling. But as the series went along, again, especially over the last 2 games, these shots started to fall. And for a guy like Brunson, he just needs to see it go in a couple times, and then it's a wrap. Piss poor managing of the clock from the San Antonio Spurs. It was maddening. I was, texting with some friends during the game, and I was like, I have never seen a team play worse with the lead than these San Antonio Spurs. I have never in my life witnessed a team be so inept at playing with the lead than these Spurs. And I've watched a lot of basketball. I'm not like these New York media people. I've watched a lot of basketball. I have never, at this level, at the NBA level, I have never seen a team play this poorly with leads, with double-digit leads, especially than the San Antonio Spurs. It was absolutely maddening watching them game after game go up big in the first quarter, only to just let it slide away by the second quarter. Like, how does this happen? And the Spurs coach, who thinks he's on that Coach Pop shit, he think he Coach Pop. Let me bring him up on the screen, because I'm not trying to air dudes out like this, but we need to call a spade at this point. Mitch Johnson, on what he would have done differently against Jalen Brunson, make him score less points. You're not Coach Popovich. You think you got that dry humor shit. Coach Pop wasn't funny until the Spurs were a dynasty. All that slick talk, that slick shit, it wasn't popping until the Spurs and Duncan got multiple Larry O'B's. Then Coach Pop was able to get that shit off, and people paid attention because he had built up the resume and the acumen that deserved it. Who the fuck is Mitch Johnson? He has way too much dip on his chip. He's really feeling himself. He thinks he's on that level. He thinks he has that pedigree just because Coach Pop, for ailing health reasons, couldn't do the job. And because for whatever reason, they didn't want to hand the keys to Becky Hammond like they were supposed to. He inherits the job, and he does a solid job, but then you were also gifted Wemby. You were gifted the future face of the league. Well, we think the future face of the league. You were gifted a high enough prospect to where if you couldn't do it with Wemby, then you are inept at the job. Mitch Johnson is not a good coach. I saw nothing over this whole playoff run, not just the finals. We can definitely hyper-analyze the finals, but nothing over this entire playoff run. And some of his own players in the postgame, in the post-mortem, were sneaking in shit, saying that maybe some of the rotation shit was a little wacky and should be re-examined. Like, these are youngins who don't know how to keep a lead, are smart enough to know to question the leadership. Make of that what you will. A bunch of 20-somethings, fresh off the tricking off double-digit leads for the 5th straight game and tricking off the ability to steal a Larry O'B before they're even ready to win a Larry O'B, had the presence of mind to admit in the post-mortem that, yeah, some of these rotation things were a little wacky. This dude, this Mitch Johnson cat, he ain't it. And I'm not Mr. Fire Everybody guy. That y'all know me. That's not my steez. But the exposing that was done, or the lack of adjustments that was done, was very telling. Extremely telling. Game after game, your team would come out hot. And game after game, when that second quarter hit and you had to take some reserves and put them in, you had no idea how to hold on to a lead. Yes, the players didn't execute, but you are supposed to be the adult in the room. You are the coach. You're supposed to be the voice of reason. There's no point fraud on this roster who can be that de facto coach, that floor general, all that nonsense that they heaped upon the point fraud. He's not there. You got rid of him and put in De'Aaron Fox. That's a you choice. And I'm not even mad at the choice because of how I feel about the point fraud. But if you're going to do that, then you need to man up as the coach and take more responsibility. You can't rest on the laurels of what Coach Pop did. Coach Pop is in the luxury suite, just happy to be breathing. You can't ride the coattails of what Coach Pop did. You're trying to, but it ain't working. You just got exposed by Mike Brown. Mike Brown outcoached you. And I know Mike Brown's going to be put onto epic Mount Rushmore in New York status, but Mike Brown is not a good basketball coach. And yet he outcoached you. If I'm the Spurs, yo, Becky, and Becky had some energy for Jalen Brunson, and a lot of Knicks fans are running with that. But I'm asking Becky, what's good? I know the Aces are doing their thing, and you still got Asia, and you want to ride that. Pause. Well, yeah, Pride Month, but you have a gaping hole. Not only do you have a gaping hole at point guard, you have a gaping hole at a legitimate number 2 option to go with Wemby, or at least a closer to go along with Wemby. But you have a huge coaching experience gap. You have a huge coaching acumen gap. You have a huge lack of coaching adjustments gap. That's real. Hit the chat. Greg, Spurs left for 74% of the series. Insane. They always crumbled in crunch time. I mean, they crumbled in the second quarter. They were crumbling throughout. And we got some more stats here. And let me see, where can I put myself to make sure y'all can see all of that? Let's go bottom right. Yeah, let's go bottom right. Okay. So you see here, according to the 4-letter network analytics, in the 4 games the Spurs lost in the NBA Finals, they had a 91.6 chance of winning game 1 up 13 points midway through the third quarter. They had a 72.8, we round up, so 92% in game 1, 73% chance in game 2, when they were up 2 points with 1 minute left in the fourth. They had a 99.6. They had a 100% chance of winning game 4 up 20 points with 9.5 minutes left in the fourth. And then a 95% chance of winning game 5 up 10 points with just under 8 minutes left in the fourth last night. I have never in my life witnessed such piss poor offensive execution, not only on this stage, but at this level of basketball. College basketball, you could just have some trash teams that don't know what the hell they're doing in, D1, D2, or whatever it is now, D1A, whatever it is now. At this level, though, even the bad teams, even the teams that are tanking, they don't do this. Teams that are tanking don't do this. Every single time they got up double digits, the Knicks will come right back. And it's not even a thing of, well, the Spurs should do a better job stopping the Knicks from coming right back. It's not that. It's when the Spurs had the ball, what did they do? It was always quick threes. It was always quick offense. There was no realization that the clock is your friend. I played point guard growing up. And playing point guard, you have a lot of responsibilities. You have to be cognizant of a lot of things. You have to be cognizant of who needs the ball, who wants the ball, but also who needs the ball. You also have to be wary of your own self. Do I need to take a shot to keep the defense honest? If I'm just sitting here just looking to pass, I'm not a threat. So you have to measure and read the times of when you need to go get yours and when you need to make sure, okay, my big needs a touch, or my wing guy's getting cold. Let me get him back in rhythm. These are all things you have to worry about and be responsible for as a point guard. So when you're up 20 with 9.5 left in the fourth quarter, by no means are we shooting this rock with more than 15 seconds left on the shot clock. We're not shooting this ball until at least 14 seconds on the shot clock. We got to burn 10 seconds off. You got 8 seconds to get the ball over half court. Why are you taking the first available shot? It was absolutely insane watching them make the same mistake game after game after game, where they would go in there and be up double digits and then not wait for the whole set to be run. It was just, oh, I'm open, I'm shooting. The Wardell effect. The Splash Brother effect. They ruined basketball. They ruined basketball. I'll go to my grave saying it. They ruined basketball, the game that I love. The game that I love to play, the game that I love to watch, the game that I love to break down and analyze. They ruined it. Because by no means should you be up 20 with under 10 minutes to go in a game where you need to get this win to even up the series at 2, and you routinely come down and take the first open shot available. This isn't an open run. This isn't AAU. This isn't low-level college basketball. This is the goddamn NBA Finals. Greg in the chat, like they just looked and played timid down the stretch of every single game. And yes, but I think they did that every time they had a lead. And that was the part to me where I'm like, that's where coaching comes in. Because yes, this is the second youngest team to make the finals and all that type of stuff and the fly shit of, bragging about that and they'll be back. I don't know about that. Again, I said the last stream, I don't know if it's guaranteed they're just going to come back. Patrick, I see you in the chat. I don't know. I don't know if that's just automatic. It should be, but I don't know if that's not automatic. It's not guaranteed. Like I talked about, the Thunder had 3 future Hall of Famers and they only got to the finals once. Whether it was De'Aaron Fox going 1 for 8 and not knowing how to be a point guard, whether it was Stephon Castle, who I don't want to say too much about his emotions because then that gets into a territory that is dangerous because I am not a therapist. But he carries himself in a way that I like, but then he also does things. I'm just like, what are you thinking? What were you thinking there? Careless fouls on Jalen Brunson for no reason. Just bumping them for no reason or going over the board of being physical. I don't mind physical. The refs let both teams play. Right? Now, certainly were cases where you could say some teams got a favorable whistle throughout these 5 games, but for the most part, both teams were allowed to be physical. But then a lot of them went over the line. I don't think I've ever seen the NBA Finals with this many flagrant fouls. Real talk. Like I'm sure someone with, Elias Sports Bureau will do the science, but I don't think I've ever seen this many flagrant fouls in the NBA Finals. So both teams were allowed to be physical until the refs finally had to jump in and start giving out flagrant ones left and right. But Stephon Castle at times did things. I was like, why did you do that? Like, I don't. And while we could blame it on youth, this man was a champion at UConn. So he knows how to play well under pressure. So he knows how to do it in UConn, but he gets to the NBA and loses all that ability. He loses all that acumen. He loses all that knowledge. That doesn't make sense to me. Is that logical to you? Stephon Castle knows how to play well and under pressure at UConn, even going to the Final Four and get to the national championship game with UConn, but somehow in the NBA Finals with the Spurs against the Knicks, he doesn't know how to play under control? How, Sway? Greg in the chat, every time Fox jacked up a shot, I said, I'll take that shot every possession. Thank you, De'Aaron. No, that's real. I mean, the only unfortunate thing is, and this gets into Wemby, is that I felt there were times where De'Aaron Fox was the only one who was willing to take the shot. And that's not supposed to be a thing. This was supposed to be the Victor Wembanyama coronation. As Prince Harry was in the building sitting next to Adam Silver last night, this was supposed to be that type of coronation where, the prince that was promised in Victor Wembanyama was supposed to make the ascension. And the prince that was promised was fatigued. The prince that was promised was lethargic. The prince that was promised didn't even revert back to tall Vic. He reverted back to little Vic. Patrick in the chat, Spurs offense was terrible. You and Barkley said it best. You and Barkley said it best. Like, Barkley got a lot of heat for saying that was some of the dumbest basketball he's ever seen after Game 4. And he had to, well, he didn't run it back, but he had to clarify that he was just only talking about De'Aaron Fox, not Mitch Johnson. I guess Mitch Johnson and the Spurs brain trust were getting at Charles Barkley behind the scenes. But no, I think he was absolutely correct. Game 4 was some of the dumbest basketball I ever seen in my life. And that goes with this man right here, Mitch Johnson. But Victor Wembanyama admitted a lot of things in French in the postgame, in his native tongue. He admitted a lot of things last night, and I'm not going to play it because it's in French, but here's the transcript. Basically, what are you going to improve on in the off season? I'm going to work even harder to be even more durable. And above all, keep a fresh mind and maintain control of the game at all times. That's what really stands out about Jalen Brunson. For example, there are too many moments, and it doesn't come from bad intentions, but there are too many moments where I'm passive, where I don't have the control over the game that I'd like to have, and it ends up costing us. I think he's speaking to what happened last night with De'Aaron Fox having to jack up all those shots because he didn't want it. He didn't want the rock. He was not taking the shots. He wasn't being Big Vic. He was Big Vic for 2 of the 5 games, and you cannot have that. If you're supposed to be the prince that was promised, you cannot be taking 3 out of the 5 games off. You cannot be lethargic. You cannot look. Now, a lot has gone into when Vic was being drafted, when the whole thing of Victor Wembanyama is a can't-miss prospect. He does all these things well. One of the things that they talked about is his workout regimen, his stretching regimen, because guys his size, those 7'3" and up guys, they tend to have their bodies fall apart and they're very fragile. So, to Wemby and his team's credit, they try to get ahead of it. We're going to put you on a great physical stretching regimen, yoga. We're going to do all these things and make sure your body stays in the most pristine condition possible so your body doesn't break down like Yao Ming's. Because Yao Ming came over here, and whether it was, the NBA lifestyle or just maybe playing in Houston, he put on a lot of weight. And I think the thought process was to get muscle, but it didn't really end up being muscle. It was just weight. And I think they want to avoid that with Vic, because when Yao Ming put on that weight, his foot went bad. And his body started to break down as a domino effect after that. So they want to avoid that with Wemby. So Wemby's out here. He doesn't stay out late. He's got the blue light on. There's a lot of stuff about all the things he tries to do to get ahead of keeping his body in the best shape possible so his body doesn't fall down and go boom. So the fact that after all that yoga, after all that meditation, after hanging out with the Buddhist monks and doing all the things, that he's sitting here and saying, I don't have control over the game that I'd like to have. There are too many moments where I'm passive. That's very transparent for what? He's 22 years old? That's extremely transparent, but it's also very troubling. It's extremely troubling if you have to admit, hey man, I was passive. I didn't want it. When everything that we've been told is that you have a different drive, you have a different gear, you're one of those. You have that, I won't say the Mamba mentality, but you have that type of spirit where you want it. And he would say all the right things. And that's why sometimes these quotes are just quotes. He's very media trained. He would say all the right things. He would give you the soundbite that he's confident, that he believes in it. But now you're seeing it in his own native tongue. He's telling you there were too many moments where I was passive. So are we believing you? When you were telling Mitch Rob, I'm in your head, that was performative. He's a podcaster. Victor Wembanyama was moving like a podcaster. It was all performative. None of it was real. None of it was genuine. Because now all of a sudden he's right back to saying I was passive. I didn't have it. I wasn't ready. They literally said in the polls, we weren't ready. Because his coach, the man who thinks he's already on Coach Popovich's level, said that he felt that you weren't ready. So his own coach took to the podium and said his best player, his most important player, the league's most important player, wasn't ready to win a championship. And Wemby tried to clean it up. We weren't ready. But then he was transparent. I wasn't ready to win a ring. Again, a man who has bestowed upon him all the greatness. The league was ready. The baton was ready to be passed as LeBron is out here playing golf like an old man that he is. The league, Adam Silver, as much as he's great for the ratings that'll come with New York winning a championship and just the cachet and the name brand recognition of New York being up, there's no face of the league on this New York Knicks team. The league needs a face, and that face was supposed to be this 7'4", 7'5" on a good day Frenchman. And this Frenchman is telling you he wasn't ready to win a ring. I think in terms of desire to do well, intensity and effort, we were at a good level. I was at a good level, but experience, it's mistakes. We don't lack talent. We don't lack ability. We just make too many mistakes, and I make too many mistakes. And a lot of me believes that he thinks this is accurate. I also think he's covering for a lot of people, because you do lack talent. This Spurs roster does lack talent. If Jalen Williams was healthy, OKC beats the Spurs. The Spurs needed 7 games to beat OKC without a healthy Jalen Williams. So you do lack the talent. Your team does lack the ability, because point guard play is an ability. Managing the clock is an ability. Managing tempo and pace is an ability. And your team from top to bottom, coaching staff, brain trust included, lacked it. You can't just chalk everything up to mistakes. When Wemby in one game and De'Aaron Fox in another game both passed the ball to Stephon Castle, and Stephon Castle's not even looking at the ball, you can't just say that's just too many mistakes. That's just a mistake. When De'Aaron Fox is trying to get an and one against OG Anunoby, when all he has to do is dribble out the damn clock and get the 2 free throws that he can to clinch the game or to help make it harder for the Knicks, that's not just a mistake. When Wemby throws that ball away to Stephon Castle and then doubles down and compounds the issue by fouling Jalen Brunson, the Knicks' best free throw shooter, or at least the Knicks' best player, most clutch player, and then Brunson gifts you by splitting the free throws. And then after that, the best you could do was 2 long jumpers to win a game, and you bricked both of them on MAGA Mitch Rob. And in a key moment last night when all you needed to do was box out one time. Don't let Mitch Rob crash the offensive glass one time. You couldn't do it. Is that another mistake? Is that just a mistake? He needed to get in that weight room. Every time he looked frail, falling around in the paint, I was like, weight room, weight room. Whatever Giannis did, the offseason plan for Victor Wembanyama, forget the yoga, forget the meditation, forget the monks. And I'll come off the screen. Hang on. The offseason plan for Victor Wembanyama should be extremely simple. Forget the yoga, forget the monks, forget the meditation. Go find out whatever the Nigerian freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo, did and triple that. Whether it's these peptides, whether it was anabolic, I don't know what it was. HGH, I don't know what it was. Allegedly, I don't know what it was with Giannis. But whatever made him go from the beanpole that he was when he was coming out to what he looked like when he won MVP and then the finals, Victor Wembanyama, if he's going to be the prince that was promised, or that is promised, if he's going to be that, he needs to get on that wave. Weight room, Wemby, weight room. You're in San Antonio. Holla at them churros. Holla at them churros. Make it happen. Weight room. Now, don't go crazy like Yao Ming did in H-Town. Don't go crazy. Those Korean barbecue wings, don't go crazy. But maybe get some churros. Maybe holla at them tacos. Maybe go crazy. Because something got to give. Because you ain't going to be the prince that was promised looking how you look right now. Kevin Durant never filled out. Kevin Durant never got the muscle. And I know you want to be the 7'5" version of the 7'1" version of Kevin Durant. But if you're going to be the face of the league, you cannot be that. You have to be Giannis with a 3-ball. Giannis with handles. That should be the archetype going forward. I'll hit the chat. Patrick, Dylan Harper is going to be great, but he shouldn't be your closer at this time. Spurs execution was trash. Yeah, no, and that's the problem. Everyone just thinks, oh, well, just get rid of De'Aaron Fox and elevate Dylan Harper. Slow down. Slow down. Like, Dylan Harper is a good finisher at the rim. Dylan Harper is, I don't know if I can say I trust him more than De'Aaron Fox, but I think his teammates trust Dylan Harper more than De'Aaron Fox. Like I said, man, I've been saying this. Wemby's sidekick, his number 2 option that will eventually get him to being the prince that was promised, he's not on this roster yet. He's not on this roster yet. I firmly believe that. I don't see it in Dylan Harper. I don't see it in Stephon Castle. Now, they can wow me. They can go in the offseason and get into their bags and go crazy and come back with a whole new skill set. Maybe Stephon Castle comes back and he learns how to manage the physicality and knowing when to turn it on and when to turn it off. Maybe he comes back and he has PG skills. Maybe he goes and trains with Rajon Rondo and figures that piece out. Maybe. There's a lot of maybes, though. Dylan Harper, maybe his 3-ball develops to where he can get it off the bounce instead of needing to kind of get a set shot a little bit. If he gets it off the bounce, if he can get it off the dribble, word, dope, elevating his game. I still don't think that's enough to be the sidekick to Wemby. I don't think so. His number 2 option does not exist. His number 2 option is not on this roster yet. Greg, if I'm the Spurs, I'll take Dylan Harper taking the shots, deuce the future and the present. And if that's the case, that will never win a Larry O.B. If that's the truth, they will not win a Larry O.B. that way. And I think that is where things go left for the Spurs. So Wembanyama is admitting that the lights were too bright. He was on that Jared Allen wave. He was too passive. They made too many mistakes. And none of us will disagree. None of us will disagree. But if we're looking at where the NBA is at this moment, and this tweet made the rounds and got a lot of views. Let me see, can we blow this up and it looks better? No, it looks better the other way. Okay. So, actually, yeah, there we go. From 2019, there's been 8 different NBA champions. There's only been one team that has been in multiple NBA finals during this span. No, actually, no, it's the Celtics, too, because they lost to the Warriors. So Celtics and the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat are the only team to make multiple finals during this 8-year span and not win. But look at the stars. Look at the stars that it took to win a Larry O.B. Kawhi had to beat the Warriors, but the Warriors were falling down and going boom. Clay, it was Achilles or the ACL, and Kevin Durant the same. Then we get into the bubble, and you had LeBron and AD at their peak when they were together. Then the next year, you had the point fraud triggering off a 2-0 lead and losing 4 straight to Giannis, Drew Holiday, and Chris Middleton. So again, we're going Kawhi, the combination of LeBron and Anthony Davis, Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Nigerian freak, Wardell sneaks one off against the Celtics when Tatum and Brown didn't seem to be simpatico on the same page. And Wardell took advantage of it, even though I still think Andrew Wiggins should have been Finals MVP, but it's fine. They could go the next year. The Heat get back to the finals only to get ran through by Jokic and Jamal Murray. Then the Celtics finally break through. Brown and Tatum on the same page. Then you have last year with OKC breaking through, so SGA. And now you have Knicks tape with Jalen Brunson. So again, you need a star. From Boardman, Kawhi, to LeBron and AD, to Giannis, to Wardell, to Jokic, to Tatum and Brown, to SGA, to Jalen Brunson, you need a guy. Do any of you think Victor Wembanyama or Dylan Harper is at that level next year? Because I do not. Y'all let me know. I don't see it. I don't see it whatsoever. I don't see it at all. See if we get some series stats. Let's get some series stats, some series averages. Jalen Brunson over these 5 games averaged 33 points, 4 rebounds, and 5 assists. He shot 39% from three-point land, 42% from the floor overall. OG Anunoby, if you wanted to kind of sneak him in there for Finals MVP, the numbers don't really help you out that much. 21 points, 5 boards, only 1 dime, but he had a steal and a half. 53% from the floor, 50% from 3. But if we go into, let me see the offensive rating. What's the offensive rating for? Offensive rating for, let me go on the screen. Offensive rating for Jalen Brunson was 106, but the offensive rating for OG Anunoby was 141. That is astronomical. That is extremely high. Defensive rating. The best defensive rating for the Knicks was Karl Anthony Towns and Josh Hart, and both were marred by foul trouble throughout this series. But let's get in. This, to me, as much as, New York fans are going to have a slanted view because, they're Knicks fans, but this, to me, is more about the missed opportunity for the Spurs than the Knicks winning. Victor Wembanyama in his first NBA Finals, 26 points, 11 rebounds, 3 assists, 4 blocks. Those numbers are going to look really good historically, but again, with the absence of context, you can get away with saying Wemby had a bad NBA Finals. He shot 27% from 3, and he took how many threes? 33 threes. 33. He took the second most threes for this series. So again, the prince that was promised took the second most threes of this 5-game series for his team. Not Dylan Harper, not Stephon Castle, not even De'Aaron Fox, not even Vassell. Victor Wembanyama took the most threes, second most threes, and shot what it looks like to be the worst percentage. Only De'Aaron Fox shot worse from 3. Stephon Castle, who's not a shooter, shot better. Dylan Harper, who's not a shooter, shot better. But yet Victor Wembanyama, who's supposed to be the prince that was promised as Kevin Durant with 4 more inches, shot worse than Dylan Harper and Stephon Castle from 3. If Victor Wembanyama, who is 7'4", 7'5" on a good day, shot 42% from the floor. Victor Wembanyama, who is supposed to be the tallest man on the court, the biggest man on the court, his effective field goal percentage was not even 50%. Victor Wembanyama, Depoy, had a worse defensive rating than Karl Anthony Towns in this series. There's a lot of re-examining that needs to happen. The narratives will write themselves. The history will write itself. But if Victor Wembanyama is supposed to be him, if Victor Wembanyama is supposed to be the one that LeBron's supposed to hand off the baton to, I think the league is in trouble. The league is in trouble if that's the case. The league is going to have to reassess what's happening if that's where we're at. I was not impressed. I was happy we got the return of Big Vic for at least 2 games, but games 1 and 2 and last night, that was Tall Vic / Lil Vic. But that's what it took to get grown men to cry. That's what it took to get men to release. That's what it took to get, there's going to be babies, dogs named OG, named Mitchell, named Landry. How many dogs are going to be named Brunson? Come here, Brunson. Come here. How many cats are going to be called OG? A legendary Knicks team. A Knicks team for all ages. But a Spurs team for all ages, for all the wrong reasons. Game after game, they tricked it off. I wish we could get a shot chart for the entire series. Let's see, is there a series shot chart? That would be epic. Because I would love to just see all the shots for the entirety of the series from Victor Wembanyama. Because he had the first game where it was 6 for 21, and a lot of that was threes. And then we have last night where he goes, let me see, pull up last night. One of 6 from 3. So between him and De'Aaron Fox. Oh yeah, and I have that graphic. Let me go find that graphic. All right, hang on. We're gonna do this. And then we're gonna do this. So I'll take myself off so you can see between De'Aaron Fox and Stephon Castle, they had 13 points and they shot 4 of 25 from the floor. 4 of 25 between Fox and Castle. Absolutely maddening. Absolutely maddening. But if you have not hit the like button, go ahead, and I would appreciate it if you would do so. If you have not subscribed already, go ahead and do so. We're growing the channel here. We're over 780 subscribers. The goal is 1,000. Then we'll worry about other milestones after that. But if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. This is the type of content we do here where we take basketball, we break it down. We take all sports and try to break it down. So, if you like this type of content and you haven't tapped in already in terms of subscribing or liking the stream, I would appreciate if you would do so. All right, so big picture. Knicks tape has won a championship. Knicks tape has done a lot of things to exercise a lot of demons. Gone are the demons of the Ewing finger roll. Gone are the demons of Starks in Game 7. Gone are the demons of Charles Smith against the Bulls. Gone are those demons. All those frowns are turned upside down as tears are streaming down numerous Knicks fans' face last night around midnight. Now what? Is this a team that can repeat? What type of 180 would it be to go from the Knicks not winning a championship for 53 years to now potentially running off a couple? Is that possible? Is that legitimate? And I know it's way too early. I know we ain't even get the parade yet. Parade's on Thursday, King of Heroes, the whole deal. But y'all know how we do here. To go from not winning a chip for 53 years to potentially being in position, the roster's coming back. I mean, you got to figure out what happens with Mitch Robb, and after you saw with Cat fouling out and not really being a factor, having Mitch Robb was important. You needed Mitch Robb last night. Does that change what the bread looks like for Mitch Robb? There's a lot of teams already circling, Lakers among them. Did Mitch Rob's performance ink a bag? Are you going to overpay to keep Mitch Rob? This is where Leon Rose is getting a lot of props for changing this roster and putting a lot more talent on this roster. And I think that was the most important thing. The Knicks rosters over my lifetime, from Patrick Ewing to Marbury to Melo, it was always talent bereft. Well, we have our guy. Our one guy should be enough. That was the Knicks credo for my entire lifetime, from Bernard King, even from before Patrick Ewing, from Bernard King. Well, we got Bernard, that should be enough. Well, yeah, that's enough to get to the playoffs. That's enough to maybe get to the second round, but that's not enough to win a championship. Then the league gift wraps Patrick Ewing. All right, well, we got him now. We good. Well, all right. Then they go out and they draft Mark Jackson and Rod Strickland back to back. Like, oh, okay. All right, you're going to do this dual point guard thing? No. We're going to get rid of one of them. Wait, what? Hold up. Then the best you could do to surround Patrick Ewing with help is a dude that was bagging groceries in Oklahoma. Then at the tail end of his career, you go get a shooting guard from Detroit, and it wasn't even the best shooting guard in Detroit in Grant Hill. It was Allen Houston. They could go get LJ with a bad back. You go get a reclamation project in Marcus Camby, but yet somehow that makes it as an 8th seed to the NBA Finals. They could go back into the doldrums. You had Stephon Marbury. Well, that should be enough. Then you brought in D'Antoni, which compounded that exposed that. And Larry Brown as well, let's not forget. Then you got Melo. And we gave up all this to go get Melo. Yes, you gave up a Mozgov to go get Melo. Oh, well, we got Stoudemire. Yeah, that's cool. But who's getting the ball? Raymond Felton? Ugh. But even with that, you got to the 2 seed. But then you got exposed by a team. You got exposed by the Heatles. So with all that set up, then Leon Rose gets the credit of just putting talent amongst talent. Is this enough to run it back? Do you overpay to keep Mitch Rob, to keep the gang back together? Now, you'll lose some pieces, some of the ancillary bench guys, some of those guys won't be back. But in terms of the core group, the Nova guys, OG, Cat, Mitch Rob, where's the tweaking going to happen? Do you think you could just run this back next year with a healthier Tatum? And who knows with what the Celtics do, allegedly flirting with Giannis? If the Celtics could somehow roll out next year with Tatum and Giannis, and the Knicks are just running it back, is that enough? These are the discussions the Knicks fans are glad to have today. But this is where we're at. They wore him out honestly. I mean, I'm assuming you mean Wemby. The posted Spurs field goal percentage for the series last night, and the second half was yeah. I mean, look, everything. All the Spurs stats are bad. All the Spurs stats are really bad. They really put themselves in a real bad position. And let me come off the screen there. Boom. Take that, take that. They put themselves in a real bad position. Real bad position. All right. I want to thank those who were able to pull up, 5 games, 5 streams, 5 podcast episodes, all that stuff. We do this. This is now, I think, the 10th one. I think I said the 10th year in a row we've done it. I'm looking forward to continuing. Looking forward to being able to pop in and just do live streams. I think I'm going to be live streaming the podcast, period. Hard stop. Live streaming allows me to talk with you guys, react. You guys sometimes bring up topics that I'm not even thinking about, or bring up points that I'm not even thinking about, and we can riff and go back and forth. And I enjoy that piece of it instead of just me recording and just doing my thing and only hearing my POV. I love hearing y'all POV in the chat. So I think this is a shift in terms of how I do the podcast, and try to give you little graphics and little visual presentation to make the YouTube experience worth it, but certainly don't try to cheap out on the audio side as well and make sure that side is pristine. But I enjoy doing these streams. If you got any feedback in terms of what more we could do here, it'll be good to have guests on. Like I know me and Greg talked briefly about maybe trying to get him on, but with me out the country, he was also traveling around, a little bit difficult. But I would love to be able to be in a spot where we can do this on a regular basis, to be able to have this pull up and talk shit and talk ball and talk whatever's going on. I would love this type of opportunity. So appreciate those that have been able to pull up over these games and be active in the chat, be active in the stream, hitting the like button, subscribing and all that stuff. I always appreciate that. I do this content for the love. I do this content as a passion project. This is not something where my livelihood is built off of it. I do this for the lowest of lows. You know what I'm saying? I've been doing this for the lowest of lows for a very long time. And because I just always have been wanting to have that lane to be able to get my shit off. And this platform allows me to do so. So always appreciative of the support, always appreciative of the commentary, all that type of stuff. So just wanted to get that off, because I think a lot of times, I know for me, I get caught up in just thinking of doing content, but it's also knowing that there's people out there who enjoy the content, look forward to the content, interact with the content, share the content. That makes it next level for me, because I could just be talking to myself and I would still be doing it, right? But to know that there's people actually out there consuming the content, tapping in, engaging, whatever, that just, makes it really, really an enjoyable and beneficial experience. So just always want to tap in with that. It always, thank y'all for tapping in. So the Knicks have done the unthinkable. The basketball gods, I didn't see the vision, but I see it now. I no longer have to console Knicks fans. I no longer have to give Knicks fans the benefit of the doubt. I no longer have to pump up Knicks fans. I could just say, man, you guys are champs. You know that feeling? 53 years, you finally felt that feeling? I knew that feeling 6 times before I was 17 years old. I knew that feeling 6 times before I turned 17. And some of you are grown with white hairs, gray hairs, grown with children, grown with grandchildren, and you're finally getting a chance to taste what I tasted when I was a teenager. Now, granted, 6 more times, well, 5 more times than y'all, but still, soak it in, bask it in. Bask it in, it's great. I'm happy for y'all. If you like it, I love it. You see, I'm wearing orange. This orange is for y'all. These oranges for New York. I can't deny who I am. I can't deny where I'm from. I can't deny where I was born and raised and where, the core of myself is entrenched in. I can't deny that. This stuff you see on the wall, this is New York. My paintings are New York. If you can figure out what that is and put it together, that is a bar from the late, great, notorious B.I.G. If I go to this camera angle, this is New York. This is Larry Johnson, LJ, all of that. Now, he's wearing a Charlotte Hornet uniform because that was the good LJ, but that's Larry Johnson. That's New York. Nick Luminary. Somehow not a Charlotte Hornet luminary. Nick Luminary. But New York, this is why we're here. Orange and blue skies. What a wonderful time. Do you understand how great it is today to wake up to know that I don't have to bask in the glory of being chief Nick hater number 1. I don't have to bask in the glory of any of that stuff. I can just live my life. I've been relieved of a serious burden to where I always have to feel like I have to put Knicks fans back in their place. I don't have to do that no more. Now, the rivalry is not back yet. But I'm just happy Knicks fans have a chance. The Knicks fans are actually engaged. They're watching basketball. They're trying to learn basketball. They've been handed a reputation of smartest Knicks fans. Knicks fans know ball. And We've seen that too many times over the years that is far from the truth. But now they can actually learn basketball. They can watch and consume basketball with winning basketball and understand what winning basketball looks like. Now, it's a rudimentary level of winning basketball, of just ISO ball, but still winning basketball nonetheless. Larry O.B., nonetheless. I'm happy for you, Knick fan. I'm happy for you. I'm happy for the family that's in my life. I'm happy for the friends that are in my life. I'm happy for the colleagues, the coworkers that are in my life that are Knick fans that are happy today. Because now a burden has been taken off my shoulders. I'm not saying Chief Knick hater number one is dead, but I'm saying I can now focus on other things. Because it wasn't fun anymore. I have to be honest with you. I'm going to be as transparent as Wemby was in the post game last night. It wasn't as fun anymore. It was hard to be passionate hating on the Knicks. Now I might be able to get that hate back. Now that the Knicks are good, championship level good, maybe now I can get that old thing back, that passion. You could revitalize that relationship. Get that old spark back. Reignite the flame. Maybe. We'll see. But the Knicks have to be good for a while for that to happen, though. They have to be this level of good for a while for that flame to get reignited. We'll see. Hit the chat. The Spurs threw tons of physicality at New York. Jalen Brunson, he endured, survived it. San Antonio had very little offense left at the end of the games, but New York sure did. We all knew this was coming. This is who this team is. I mean, that's certainly very, very rose-colored glasses. I don't think we all knew this. Hell, even Brunson and his daddy admitted in the postgame that they didn't know this was coming. A lot of things had to break right for this Knicks team to win, and this is no shade to them. They won it. They did it. They seized the moment. Much like I think Adam Silver, if you give him true serum, he wanted Victor Wembanyama to seize the moment and snatch a Larry O.B. to get a free one in the tuck. The Knicks seized the moment. They took advantage of all the frailties of the San Antonio Spurs. They took advantage of all of them. Wemby's fragile. Keep putting big bodies on him. De'Aaron Fox is a Sacramento King to his heart. Let him do his thing. Stephon Castle likes to be the most physical person. Let's make sure Jalen Brunson is in front of him to goad him into doing stupid fouls at the worst times. Mike Brown saw that his guys weren't getting foul calls. He made sure to go into his Pat Riley, Phil Jackson bag and criticize the refs. And Mitch Johnson, who is no Greg Popovich, but somehow thinks he is, had nothing to combat that. So they took advantage of that. They seized the moment. They took advantage of everything. All the frailties that the Spurs showed, the Knicks took advantage of every single one of them. And that's why they're the champs today. I've not been a fan for all the years, but yeah, no doubt. Look, Knicks fans should be basking in the glow. I am doing it as a supporter of New York, as someone from Southside Jamaica, Queens. I cannot sit here and watch a New York championship happen and act like that's not important. It is important. There are people from my old neighborhood in Southside Jamaica. There are people from my old neighborhood in Springfield Gardens, my old neighborhood in South Ozone. All throughout Queens, all the places I've lived in throughout Queens, there are people that I know that are sky high last night into today and will be at the Canyon of Heroes Thursday. So I'm happy for them. Happy for them. And I'm happy that I no longer have to hold back my thoughts on what I really think about the Knicks. Because now you're champs. Now I can throw shade. It was hard to throw shade when the Knicks were always down. It was hard to throw hate when the Knicks were always down. Now I can get back to my normal energy, my normal credo, my normal tempo, unlike the Spurs. I know how to control the tempo and go at it and mix in some Knick hate. And it's legitimate Knick hate. Not just, he's just kicking a dog when he's down, kicking a man when he's down, kicking a fan base when they're down, kicking a poverty franchise when they're down. Now, none of this changes James Dolan. He's still racist. He's still a bigot. He is still a sexist. He is still problematic as hell. None of this changes. But the Knicks win a Larry O.B. And the merch is going to go through the roof, and that's going to go right into James Dolan's pocket. Make of that what you will. MAGA Mitch Rob is going to be able to cash out. Isn't it fitting that the only game the Knicks lost was when MAGA Mitch Rob's mans pulled up and fell asleep in the suite? Isn't that apropos that the only game the Knicks lost was when Dolan's favorite and MAGA Mitch Rob's favorite pulled up to the Mecca and fell asleep in the suite? It's the only time that the Knicks lost. Make of that what you will.